driven-transportation.com. Do it right now. Driven to succeed.
Hello, it's John Kozik, founder and president of TurboTrack Realty, and I buy real estate as is fast for cash. Give us a call today for an all-cash offer at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000. I buy vacant properties, inherited homes, divorce situations, death in the family, apartment buildings, commercial properties. I even buy my tenants won't pay me the rent houses. Give us a call today for an all-cash offer at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000.
If you need new roofing, siding or gutters, skylights or patio enclosures, Lance Roofing and Siding has been satisfying customers since 1993 and hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. See Lance Roofing and Siding at their new location at 6903 Dayton Springfield Road in Enid. Call for a free estimate at 864-2722. That's 864-2722. Online at lanceroofing.com.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-216-1635 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-216-1635. That's 800-216-1635. What do you have to lose? Call 800-216-1635. Again, 800-216-1635.
Brian Setzer, Slim Jim Phantom, Lee Rocker, The Stray Cats, U.S. Tour. We're gonna rock this town, rock it inside out. August 10th, Rose Music Center at the Heights. I got cat class and I got cat style. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.com and the Rose Music Center box office. Slip it to the end with the runaway boys. Where you're sexy, the Stray Cats live.
Now, back to the Justin Kinner Show, right here on ESPN Dayton, 1410 Wing AM.
All right, everybody, happy Friday. It's the Justin Kinner Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. All right, we got a lot to get into here today. We're going to have our conversation with Clark Kellogg. Clark and I had a chance to catch up earlier today. Wanted to make sure we did get a chance to talk with him. He had a lot to say about Clint Sargent and the Wright State Raiders, who are back in the NCAA tournament. We talked about the Dayton Flyers. Yesterday we talked about how, yesterday was the 6-year anniversary, if you will, of the day that the sports world just came to a close due to COVID, and we all remember how good that Dayton team was that season in the NCAA tournament, the what could have been tournament for the Flyers. So we talked about that. Bruce Thornton with Ohio State, who just got knocked out of the Big Ten tournament in a very competitive game against Michigan. And then, of course, Miami. We'll talk about Miami. I have a lot of people pissed off at me because how dare I question Miami, apparently. Half these people didn't even start following Miami until back in January, but yet they're going to tell me how crazy I am. But that's besides the point. But we got a lot to get into. I can't wait for the conversation with Clark Kellogg. We'll get to that coming up here around the corner. One thing that Clark and I did talk about when it came to Miami was they're a difficult team to figure out because there's a lot of metrics that are used to justify putting teams in the NCAA tournament. It's just like the college football playoff, right? They're going to give you 10 metric points that they look at. There's 10 criteria points that the college football playoff committee looks at. But there's no such thing as a team that checks off every box, right? And I think that's how the that's how the college football playoff committee gets away with everything that they do, because they could take a team that they put in the playoff and say, well, this team checked off box 1, box 2, 3, 8, and 10. But the team that was left out, well, they checked off a few boxes, but yeah, we don't prioritize those boxes as much as these boxes, and we're constantly moving the goalposts. And that's the same thing that happens in college basketball. There are so many criteria points that teams need to, adhere to be in the at-large conversation. And Miami checks off 1, maybe 2 boxes. but not the main important ones. The important boxes that I feel like we hold a lot of the bigger teams to, we're just ignoring with Miami because, it's a feel-good story. And we talked about that with, or I talked about that with Clark Kellogg. I'll have that for you coming up in a moment. But the thing is, it's weird because I understand the other side. You can't ignore 31-0. I know they lost yesterday, but the regular season, they finished 31-0. Yes, their schedule ranks 307th in the country. Tough, strength of schedule. I can't ignore the fact that their strength of schedule is at 307, but I also can't ignore the fact that they're 31-0. And I get why people are pissed off at Auburn because they have all those losses. And it's like, well, you are saying that you can't ignore the 16 losses that they have, but I can't ignore the strength of schedule being at number 4 because at the end of the day, yeah, they have a lot of losses, but look at the strength of their schedule. Yeah, Miami has a lot of wins, but look at the strength of their schedule. It makes sense that the team with the 4th toughest schedule in basketball has a handful of losses. And it makes sense that the team that has, a strength of schedule ranked in the 300s, that they find themselves at 31-0. All right. Now, if it's not easy to go 31-0 because, there are teams who are ranked in the 300s every year when it comes to strength of schedule, and nobody's flirting with 31-0. So I completely get it. But the point is we're moving the goalposts around a lot when it comes to that. And Clark Kellogg and some of the others, how do they sit there and balance out which criteria points are the most important? Which ones are the most important? We'll have that with Clark coming up here just around the corner. The Dayton Flyers are also in action right now, going up against St. Bonaventure in the quarterfinals of the A-10 tournament. There's about a minute left in the half. They are ahead 29-25. St. Bonaventure has won a couple games already in this A-10 tournament. This is their 3rd game in the A-10 tournament. And I see a lot of people criticizing the pace of play in this game. St. Bonaventure already beat LaSalle 99-80. They beat George Mason yesterday 63-57. This is their 3rd game. They're tired. And you have a typical Anthony Grant offense, half court, dribble out the clock, pass a bajillion times. And that's why they find themselves in a 2-point, 29-27, 2-point game against St. Bonaventure. This is why Anthony Grant's style of play always allows bad teams to play up to them. And that's what's frustrating about an Anthony Grant team. You would think a guy that is known for his NBA experience would bring NBA principles to this team, and it is amazing how archaic at times this team runs. I will never forgive Anthony Grant for wasting Tumani Kamara, if you really think about it. I mean, Tumani Kamara, I knew he was special when he was at Dayton, but I couldn't really, how was his game going to translate to the NBA? And then you watch one game of Summer League, or you watch like the combine workouts where those guys just get up and run. And it's like, oh, he's a stupid freak athlete. And the UD and Anthony Grant's boring ass offense just was basically just stifling him the entire time. There's a reason that he just flourished and took off once he got to the NBA. There's a reason that he flourished when he got to the NBA. Well, what do you mean? Anthony Grant's offense was good enough for Obi Toppin. Obi Toppin, yes. In the open floor, he just ran down to the other. I mean, he out-athleticized. He was just a freak athlete. He did what he did. I don't give Anthony Grant credit for that. I just don't. I don't. It's 30-27, 52 seconds remaining in the first half. It's a one-possession game. Man, Dayton has to win the A-10 tournament to get to the NCAA tournament. I'm sorry, they have to win the A-10 tournament to get to the NCAA tournament, and they're flirting with disaster here in a close one with St. Bonaventure. Again, St. Louis is who they would run into coming up. Out of this, they would potentially have VCU. VCU beat them twice this season. If they get to the championship, that's who they'd have to play. I mean, we'll see what ultimately ends up happening when it's all said and done. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. We talked yesterday, Miami, after a 31-0 regular season, their season comes to a stop after they get upset by UMass in the first round. They had about, 7 or 8 point lead with 7 minutes to go. They got dominated on the glass. I mean, that's a top 25 team who just got literally beat up by UMass physically. And everyone got mad at me for my take on Travis Steele yesterday, and I'm not going to walk that back. I'm going to lean into it even more. I think it was actually absolutely pathetic of him in the postgame to actually bring up the fact that, hey, don't you think it's important that the MAC protects the top seed? How else would you have expected? Like, what does he want? Does he just want to be handed a semifinal appearance? I see a lot of people out there who are suggesting that. And I understand it. I get that the purpose of these conferences is to try to protect your higher seed. But at the same time, there's only so much that they could do for you. You could do more for you than I feel like, because you were 31-0, because you were the first place team, because you dominated the MAC all season long, you got rewarded by getting a bye early on. You got rewarded by being handed a team that's under 500 and a team that you beat already in the season. They gave you a bad team to beat, and asking you to beat a bad team should not be too much to ask. But I know he tried to cover it up. He did the whole no offense, but no matter what you say, it's going to be offensive afterwards. So he did the whole, shouldn't you protect, the top seed? But he's not making excuses. Well, that's an excuse. You could make an excuse and then say after that you're not making an excuse. It doesn't mean that you weren't making an excuse. You were making an excuse. And now Miami sits back and they just have to wait to see what's ultimately going to happen nonetheless. But we'll find out on Selection Sunday. I did see that on, ESPN and some others put out there, like Miami has like a 38% chance of making it to the NCAA tournament. And that's what I can't figure out about this team. I talked to Clark later today. We'll have the Clark Kellogg interview in a moment, but I talked to Clark and all the prognosticators on ESPN and everywhere else. They all say, there's no doubt that they're in. And I'm not saying that I don't think that they're going to be in, but the Vegas odds, there's a lot of odds out there that it's less than 50-50 that they make it. And I find that fascinating. I'm really curious to see what criteria points the committee leans into when it comes to Miami and the Redhawks on Sunday. I'm very fascinated by what that's going to be, because, like I said earlier, the criteria points, no team will ever check off every criteria point. And Miami checks off one or two of them, but is that enough to put them in? That strength of schedule is horrific. They're Ken Palm. There's so many things out there that is not very impressive, to be quite honest with you. It's not worthy of an at-large conversation. And they sure as hell didn't play anyone to put them in position to put them in the at-large conversation. But the storyline of 31-0, that's what I really want someone to answer for me. Is there a criteria point that says if you go 31-0, then you get in no matter who you play? I don't think that criteria point exists. I think we're just making it up as we go, which that I have a problem with. We did this with Cincinnati in the college football playoff years ago, where they didn't come close to checking off any metrics whatsoever to make the college football playoff. However, they were a feel-good story, and they were kind of being pushed through the entire way. And I had a problem with that. I was not a fan of that, nonetheless. All right. 937-518-1410, the number to call or text to jump in on the conversation. We're Dayton's ready at home for Wright State basketball. We've spent a lot of time on Wright State. We'll talk more Wright State with Clark Kellogg in a moment. We'll also talk about Bruce Thornton and the Buckeyes. Their Big Ten tournament run comes to an end in the quarterfinal round against Michigan. They had multiple chances down the stretch. 71-67 the final. Michigan advances to the semifinal. Michigan 30-2 on the season. Michigan didn't play in many close games all season. I mean, Michigan only has 2 losses on the year. They're 19-1 in the Big Ten, but they didn't play in many close games. I mean, they're a hell of a team. And Ohio State forced them to play a close game. And to be honest, Ohio State had a lot of opportunities down the stretch. They missed a lot of bunnies. They missed a lot of wide open shots. They missed some clutch free throws. There was a layup that was missed. Ohio State had their opportunities down the stretch. They did not capitalize. They looked tired. Michigan's size is just too much. I mean, hell, they had about, 16 seconds to come down, and they were down 4, and they couldn't even get a shot off. And by the time they did get a shot off to cut it to within 2, there was only 6 seconds left. And by that point, it didn't matter. It was a good win for Michigan. We'll see what ultimately happens in the Big Ten championship. But Ohio State's in. That's a good thing. We'll find out where Ohio State will be seated. That win over Iowa was big. Everyone felt that they were pretty much in, that their spot was secure. But beating Iowa definitely secures that. And I thought they played a hell of a game today. Down 4 at half, 39-35. And then, of course, tied with Michigan in the second half, 32-all. But they had their opportunities late. They just couldn't get it done. Bruce Thornton, pretty damn impressive, as always, the Buckeyes' all-time leading scorer. He finished with 22 points here this afternoon. 22 points in 39 minutes. He did play in some foul trouble down the stretch, but he got to the free throw line 6 times, knocking down all 6 of those. 4 assists, 3 rebounds, a steal. He did a little bit of everything, couple offensive rebounds. He did finish with the 4 fouls, as we mentioned, which kind of limited his aggressiveness down the stretch. But either way, Brandon Knoll, former Raider, he's back here. He made his return for Ohio State today. He was 1 of 3 from the floor. He had 2 points and 2 rebounds in 12 minutes of play. He did have a steal and 2 offensive rebounds as well in limited minutes. Gabe Cupps, 17 minutes. He dropped 5 points, 2 of 3 from the floor, a rebound, an assist. And he got some, he was in some clutch moments of that game. Gabe Cupps' run at Ohio State, man, like, I don't know. I've heard so many things about Gabe Cupps in regards to like what level of basketball player he actually is. It obviously didn't work at Indiana. I was excited to see, I've always looked at Gabe Cupps as a potential, like, does he have that Aaron Craft potential where, Aaron Craft was just one of my all-time favorite Buckeyes because he literally could do everything on the floor. He could pass the ball. He could score the ball. He could rebound the ball. He played defense. I mean, he did everything. And that's what I was really waiting to see if Gabe Cupps could develop into that type of player. Maybe he still can. Is Ohio State going to be patient enough? I think he plays too important of a position that if they are going to get an increase in NIL funds, I don't know if I'm taking Gabe Cupps over some of the guards that are going to be available in the portal. They have to get more athletic on the outside. You're going to have to replace, of course, Bruce Thornton scoring on the outside. And I don't think that Gabe Cupps has looked good enough, consistently enough, long enough to justify bringing him back next year, at least from an NIL perspective. But again, it's not my money. Who knows? But Gabe Cupps in 17 minutes, 5 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist. I'm not going to beat up on the kid. I don't think Gabe Cupps has had the college career that I was expecting. I thought that was a hell of a get for Indiana. Didn't work there, but I thought, Mike Woodson at the time in Indiana was very dysfunctional. It just hasn't even worked at Ohio State as far as him taking off. Devin Royal was good for Ohio State today, 13 points to go along with 11 rebounds. He was way more aggressive today than what they were against Indiana. Than what they were against Iowa yesterday. But much better game. If Ohio State's going to advance and make any kind of run of the tournament, you have to get, what you're going to get from Thornton, but Devin Royal has to produce. Devin Royal has to be a player. Obviously, Christoph Tilley down low in the block. 8 points, 5 rebounds today against Michigan. Again, that's probably the biggest team that they'll play, for the remainder of the tournament. So we'll see what happens. But Mobley finished with 12, Devin Royal 13, as I mentioned. But Bruce Thornton, you know what you get with him. But Devin Royal has to be big in this tournament. He has to be big in the NCAA tournament if Ohio State wants a chance at making a run. They finished at 21-12, 12-8 in Big Ten play. And Joe Lunardi has them anywhere between the 9 and the 10 seed. Had they would have beat Michigan, probably would have climbed up that ladder a little more. So who knows? I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. We'll have an update. Yeah, and Cupps did play well today. I mean, he attacked the basket. There was a nice, late in that second half, he did attack. I saw Shaw's response that Cupps played well. I thought he played okay. I mean, again, based on my expectations for what he was supposed to be coming to Ohio State. But Diebler did have him out there on the floor late in the game and clutch moments of that game. There was one drive he had where he attacked the paint and went on that reverse layup on the other side. That was probably the most aggressive move I've seen him make all season. If that Cupps exists, that's where you could find something special right there. But again, it's just that consistency of being a force as far as that goes. Nonetheless, Shaw says, any chance for Ohio State versus Wright State in Dayton? I mean, the only way Ohio State taking on Wright State would happen is if Ohio State would move all the way up to a 3 seed, and there's no way Ohio State's going to be in that, at the highest an 8 seed, probably a 10 seed. I don't even see them playing in Dayton in the first 4. I think that they're going to be a 10 seed and not even be in the mix for that, but we'll see what happens. Wright State's going to be a 14. Playing the likes of a Michigan State or a Nebraska or something along those lines. Either way. All right, we'll be right back. It's the Justin Kinner Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
Are you ready to tackle this tax season alone? Well, you don't have to. Belmont Business Consultants and Tax Services, with its 30-plus years of experience, is here to help you with business and individual taxes, bookkeeping, and payroll, either in person, drop-off, or through their secure client portal. Belmont Business Consultants in Eaton and Dayton is standing by. Call them in Eaton at 937-472-3300 or in Dayton at 937-252-2217 or on the web at belmontbctxs.com.
Get the last roof you'll ever need with steel roofing from Menards. Steel roofing provides your home with the best protection from wind, hail, and fire. Choose from 29 stylish colors to enhance your home's appearance. Available in cut-to-length panels that cover a large area for a fast installation. Shop our selection of roofing products today. Plus, check out our weekly flyer on menards.com for all the great deals happening this week.
Save big money at Menards.
ABS, does that mean always bring snacks? TPMS, does that mean tiny potholes make squeaks? AWD, does that mean all wheels are dancing? No, that's not right. But here's the truth. Carroll Works Tire knows the real meanings and will keep your car safe without all the jargon. Carroll Works Tire. Tires, service, and tire values you can count on. Find us online at c-wtire.com or talk to a real human at 937-461-5441.
For decades, people have been asking, what's the famous recipe behind Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken? And we've decided we're finally going to tell you. Starting with the 8-piece family meal and its 8 pieces of crispy, delicious bone-in chicken, 4 fluffy, buttery biscuits, and 2 large sides. Oh, wait, I'm just getting word from our lawyers that I can't actually tell you any of that. So, better pick up an 8-piece family meal and figure it out for yourself. Good luck. The 8-piece family meal, only at Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken, famous for a reason.
KTH Parts Industries in St. Paris is now hiring facilities industrial electricians. Do you have this specialized skill? This person must have a 2-year electrical degree or journeyman electrician card, knowledge in industrial electrical equipment, great communication skills, willing to work overtime, weekends, and shutdowns as needed. HVAC or plumbing experience is a plus. KTH offers excellent benefits, including medical, dental, and 401k. Apply today and be valued by a company that sincerely cares about you. Apply online at KTH.net, an equal opportunity employer.
Hello, it's John Kozik, founder and president of TurboTrack Realty, and I buy real estate as is, fast for cash. Call me today for an all-cash offer on any of your properties, and we can close within days at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000. Do you own a property that's outdated and needs thousands of dollars in repair? Great, I'll buy it. Give us a call today for an all-cash offer at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000. Would it be convenient for you if you could simply take what you wanted and leave the rest behind? Great, I'll buy it. I buy vacant properties, inherited homes, divorce situations, death in the family, apartment buildings, commercial properties. I even buy my tenants won't pay me the rent houses. Visit us today at turbotrackrealty.com or give us a call and speak with one of our friendly staff members at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000.
Hi, I'm Michael from the War and Treaty. You know the jingle. Now discover the facts about Ozempic, a GLP-1. Only Novo Nordisk makes FDA-approved Ozempic. Learn about the real thing.
Talk to your healthcare professional today. Call 1-833-OZEMPIC or visit Ozempic.com to view the medication guide and to learn more about Ozempic. Semaglutide injection 0.5 milligram, 1 milligram, and 2 milligrams.
Cordell Transportation is looking for more weekend warriors. If you have a Class A CDL and would like to make some extra money casually driving weekend daytime routes, then Cordell Transportation is looking for you. Home daily, all loads round trip, no touch freight, and competitive pay. Full-time routes could become available if you're interested. Drive weekends at Cordell Transportation. Apply at CordellTransportation.com or call Ron at 937-277-7271. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
Now, back to the Justin Kinner Show, right here on ESPN Dayton, 1410 Wing AM.
All right, and we are back. It's the Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. We'll have our interview with Clark Kellogg coming up here in just a moment. We'll talk Dayton Flyers, Wright State, Ohio State, Miami Redhawks. We got all of that coming up with Clark Kellogg as Selection Sunday is coming up. Right now, we know we'll see at least 3 teams from the state of Ohio. At least, I'm 100% sure we're seeing Wright State, 99% sure we're seeing Ohio State, and I'm 90% sure we're seeing Miami of Ohio or Miami. I'm sorry, they get their little feelings all hurt when you call them that. But the Redhawks. Everyone's super confident they're getting in. I think that they're getting in too, but I'm not like 100% confident they're getting in. Right? I mean, I've seen a lot of different things out there that say there's about a 38% chance, a 40-something% chance that they make it. That's less than 50% because their metrics ain't fill in the blank with a non-FCC approved. I don't care about the WAB, the wins above the bubble, from something that they made up just to make Miami fans feel good. I have no idea. No idea. And maybe some of this is coming because my dislike for their coach is starting to pile up more and more and more. And maybe that has something to do with it as well. I don't know. But I shared on yesterday's show, I just was not a fan of how they carried themselves down the stretch. I think they're a phenomenal story for college basketball. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to be mad if they make it. Should they be in? Sure. I'm a fan of a mid-major basketball program. I would like to think that there is a true blueprint for mid-majors to truly carve a path to the NCAA tournament. But I never thought that the path to the NCAA tournament would be play the worst schedule in college basketball and take advantage of that and get there. But to their credit, they didn't lose. They were 31-0. More power to them. But we emphasize the importance of strength of schedule and who you play and why that matters. And then we just say, well, none of that matters. All that matters is wins. Okay, then why play anybody? If I am Kentucky, if I am Florida, if I am any top, Big 12 team, Big 10 team, I'm not playing one good team next season in the non-con. Why? If I'm Auburn, I'm not going to put any good teams in the non-con. I'll just beat up on a bunch of nobodies and then be a big-time college basketball story in January because, hey, Miami did it. I think it's a bad precedent to set. I also don't like what the college football playoff did. When they reward teams for playing nobody and they punish teams for playing somebody. Texas was left out of the college football playoff because they played somebody. They played Ohio State in the non-con. And had they played who the hell is that state in week 1 instead of Ohio State, then Texas would have had 2 losses and they would have been a shoo-in to make the college football playoff. But because they challenged themselves, they were punished. And now there's a lot of talk out there about teams pulling out of these big non-conference, contracts moving forward. We may not see Ohio State, Alabama in 2027. And I don't blame teams for doing that. If the committee is going to punish you for picking up losses while challenging yourself, but you're going to reward teams for playing nobody and just reward the wins, which I know it sounds stupid that I'm mad that you're rewarding wins, but not all wins are created equal. That's why they have the strength of schedule metric. That's why they, all this stuff. And then that wins above the bubble BS. I'm sorry, that I know that that's a metric that makes you feel good about a lot of your teams out there. I think that's one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. So Miami's win, and by the way, the wins above the bubble, that's what allowed North Carolina to get into the NCAA tournament last year, and everyone said how stupid that metric was. And now that you like the character in the story, now we love the WAB. Now we love the wins above bubble or whatever the hell it's called. I don't get it. I don't get it. Y'all are so fickle. You all are so hypocritical. You hated that North Carolina got in last year, who had a lot of losses, and they ignored a lot of but they used that metric to put them in. That was horrible. Now that they're going to use that same metric for a team you like, now that metric's acceptable. Y'all are hilarious. Y'all are hilarious. But Justin, what if Wright State is 31-0 next year and they don't play anybody in the non-conference? Oh, here's the difference between you and I. I have no problem being a hypocrite. I have no problem saying, hey, when it's the team I like, now I'll be upset and whatever. But I also know Clint Sargent's not going to sit there and make excuses. And, if they get knocked out of the Horizon League tournament and say, I can't believe, I'm going to blame the tip-off time for why we couldn't rebound. I also know that Clint Sargent's not going to punch over DJ speakers. And I also know Clint Sargent's not going to allow his players to flip off the opposing fans and act like a bunch of morons. So I think it's a little different as far as that goes. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. Waiting to see. It's halftime. Dayton and St. Bonaventure. That game's on the USA Network right now. 30-27 at half. Dayton over St. Bonaventure. Latong only played 8 minutes in that first half, but he did pick up 2 fouls, so kind of playing in a little foul trouble right there. But in 8 minutes of play, Latong 7 points, 7 rebounds, 3 of those at the offensive end. And he's 1 of 3 from behind the 3-point line, but played limited sparing minutes because of foul trouble. 8 of the 20 minutes in the first half is how many he played. Going to Montgomery, 0 points in that first half. 0 of 4 from the floor, 0 of 3 from 3. Turned the ball over twice, did get 1 assist and a steal and a block. You're wondering why this game is close with the Bonnies. You got Latang in foul trouble, and Montgomery, who's supposed to be, again, his stock has just been up and down all season. He's had a very, I know that the UD fans have had a love-hate relationship with him kind of throughout the season. Some have questioned his effort and others and all that. I haven't watched the first half. I'm not going to bring up someone's effort or whatever, but I do think that's alarming. That's one of your better players, and you have a goose egg at halftime in 14 minutes of play. That's a problem. Javon Bennett, 12 points in 18 minutes of play to go along with 3 rebounds and an assist as far as that goes. And then off the bench, that's been a problem. Durkak again with 5 points off the bench. Malcolm Thomas with 1. Jacob Connor, 7 minutes in that first half, 0 points in that first half. And I know they're about to get underway in the second half. Look, we'll be off air. I'll be off air by the time this game ends. But, man, this is a crucial 20 minutes for the Dayton Flyers, okay? Because they don't technically win anything if they win this second half. But you lose everything if you lose this second half. 9 years of Anthony Grant. 1 real NCAA tournament appearance in 9 years. And in that same time span that Anthony Grant has been the head coach of the Dayton Flyers, the Wright State Raiders they've punched their ticket to the NCAA tournament 3 times. 3 times. And you could say, well, Justin, no, the Dayton's made it twice. Okay, so twice. Wright State's made it 3 times, still more than Dayton. Wright State's the team that gets to the NCAA tournament now way more consistently than the Dayton Flyers, which is an absolute crazy thing to say, but I'm not wrong. And you lose to St. Bonnie today. That drought, that streak of just failing in the A-10 tournament just continues. You failed in the regular season by not getting the at-large bid. But this is Anthony Grant basketball. 20-win seasons, which are great. But it's all about the NIT, apparently. Anthony Grant and the NIT, that's more common than Anthony Grant in the NCAA tournament, which was not supposed to be the case, especially taking over from the Archie Miller era, who, by the way, is he still employed at Rhode Island? I have no clue. How about Wes Miller getting let go over in Cincinnati? Jared Calhoun's a name that is being linked there out of Utah State. Again, that's a name. He used to be at Youngstown State. Jared Calhoun, again, played for Bob Huggins back in the day. That's a name to keep an eye out there for. Travis Steele, I think they at least have one more game in them, in the NCAA tournament. How long of a run can the Redhawks make in the tournament? That's still to be determined. But I think Travis Steele is a name to keep an eye out for that Cincinnati job. The former Xavier coach did not work it well at Xavier, but Travis Steele's stock will never be higher than what it is right now, because even if Travis Steele comes back to Miami next season, which I do not think he is, I think he would be a fool to come back to Miami next season, because no matter what happens, Miami is going to be – this reminds me of what happened to Dayton in 2020. There's some comparisons here, because Dayton was so good in 2020 that no matter what they did in the years to follow, unless they were a 1 seed or unless they were the number 3 team in the country, everything else just wouldn't feel as special now. Oh, Dayton, the number 24 team in the country, it still just would feel off, because you were the number 1 team, or you were a 1 seed and the number 3 team in the country years before. Like, there was that elevated sense of identity, false identity, an identity crisis, if you will, for the Flyers program. I think Miami is going to suffer from that moving forward. So even if Travis Steele leads them to like 24 wins next year and they finish top 2 or 3 in the MAC, it's still going to feel like he came up short of something, because everyone's going to compare what they do moving forward to this season. Just like I feel like that's what everyone was doing with Dayton. Everything that they did post-2020 is going to be compared to 2020, and that's not always a good thing. You get to the NCAA tournament, you get that 8 or 9 seed. If you're Anthony Grant, you could replicate that 8 or 9 seed again. You could maybe even improve that up to a 6 seed, a 5-4 seed. But once you're that 1 seed, once you get told that you're a 1 seed one time, that's the bar you're going to be, held to more times than not moving forward. Right or wrong, fair or not, That's the reality of it. And I think Dayton has suffered from that since 2020, and I think Miami will suffer from that moving forward as well, which is why I do not think that we are going to see him come back next season. I just don't see. Like I said, Travis Steele's a hell of a coach. Miami will continue to win games moving forward. Travis Steele, they will never be 31-0 again, unless all the good teams all of a sudden are afraid of Miami and won't schedule them. That's just not going to happen again. Travis Steele is gone. This is just like when Archie Miller left Dayton. Everyone swore, no, Archie's going to stay. Archie's going to stay. Archie Miller's stock was never going to be higher than what it was in that final season with Dayton. And honestly, I was correct. Archie Miller's stock has never even come close to being what it was that final year at Dayton. When they made the NCAA tournament, they went up against a Wichita State team that unfortunately was misseeded. And that historic run, the Archie Miller era, just came to a screeching halt. No more Kyle Davis and Scoochie Smith and Kendall Pollard and, all those guys. It was just a bid farewell to all of them. But, that's Travis Steele to me. There's a lot of crossover. There's a lot of comparisons with this Miami team to some previous Dayton teams. Travis Steele reminds me of that final year of Archie Miller. Yeah, you would like to see Travis Steele come back, but he's not going to come back. There's no way he can ever replicate what he did, and he'll always be compared to what he did this year, and he'll never do what he did this year again, so it's always going to feel like he came up short moving forward. He has to bounce. He has to take a bigger job. I think Travis Steele's the next head coach of the Cincinnati Bearcats. There you go. All right, Clark Kellogg, had a chance to catch up with him earlier today. I have that interview coming up next, right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. A shortened show today. I'm calling the girls' state basketball tournament. I'm at Vandalia tonight out of D2. How about Kettering? How about Fairmont? They'll be in the D1 championship tomorrow night at the University of Dayton Arena. Division I action, that'll be 8:30 tomorrow night. Division I state championship. Fairmont knocked off Pick Central last night. And looking forward to that D1 final tomorrow night at UD Arena. I'll be calling games out of D2. Archbishop Hoban going up against Olmsted Falls. I have that call tonight at Vandalia Butler High School at 6:00. And then game 2, Sunbury again will go up against Mount Notre Dame. So we have that coming up later on this evening as well. So busy weekend, busy month of basketball. Selection Sunday coming up. Girls State Basketball Championships here in Dayton. The boys tournament next weekend. The boys state tournament next weekend in Dayton. The first 4. Yeah, like I said, I grew up the biggest basketball fan in the world. This city, there's no better city to live in if you love basketball, whether it's high school basketball, college basketball. You have the high school state tournaments, boys and girls. You have the first 4, 2 really good D1 basketball programs in Wright State and Dayton. Ohio State's an hour, away. You have Xavier. You have Cincinnati. Apparently you have Miami. I don't know. Not have a good night. We're not done yet. We'll be right back. Again, Clark Kellogg coming up next. The NCAA First Four is back at the epicenter of college basketball. The excitement tips off Selection Sunday, March 15th, with 2 family-friendly events. Lace up for the Big Hoopla 4-miler at Wright State University, and then bring the family to the free STEM challenge at our brand-new, exciting location, the Nutter Center. It all leads to the NCAA First Four at UD Arena, March 17th and 18th. The First Four, Dayton and the Big Hoopla. Details at DaytonHoopla.com.
2 hours ago, Kyle arrived at the bar.
Hey, what's everyone drinking?
30 minutes ago, Kyle got his friends another round of drinks.
Cheers!
5 minutes ago, Kyle decided to drive home drunk. A minute ago, a law enforcement officer pulled up behind Kyle.
Sir, have you been drinking tonight?
A chain of events that began 2 hours ago is about to change Kyle's whole world. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
Pump up the volume.
Business moves fast. Orders roll in, deadlines close in. When you ship with USPS Ground Advantage, you can keep up with confidence. Every package stays in our secure network from dock to door. And with nationwide reach, dependable tracking, and upfront affordable pricing, you get built-in peace of mind. You run the business. We run the routes. Visit USPS.com/groundadvantage to learn more.
Did you know GoodRx can help you save on medication, manage prescriptions, and get trusted health information? If you're one of the millions living with a heart condition, check GoodRx for an easier, more affordable way to manage your health. GoodRx offers common heart medications for under $30. Just search for your prescription, find the best price, then show your pharmacist the GoodRx coupon. And it works whether you have insurance or not. To start saving and better manage your heart health, download the free app or visit GoodRx.com today. GoodRx is not insurance but can be used instead of insurance, including Medicare and other federal and state-funded programs.
I'm Boomer Esiason. My mom died from cancer. She was only 37 years old. She didn't have life insurance, and that was devastating for my family. That's why having life insurance is so important to me. Ethos makes it fast and easy. Get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. You can get up to $3 million in coverage with no medical exam.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/play. That's ethos.com/play. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Daniel Donato's Cosmic Country and Marty Stewart and his fabulous superlatives join forces for one epic night of live music in Dayton, Ohio, Saturday, June 20th at Rose Music Center at the Heights. Get tickets now at Ticketmaster.com and the Rose Music Center box office. Don't miss Daniel Donato's Cosmic Country and Marty Stewart and his fabulous superlatives.
$5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right. My friends at Cordell Transportation are now hiring experienced Class A CDL drivers with excellent work history. If that's you, apply now. Cordell Transportation offers home daily dedicated lanes, no-touch freight, and brand new equipment, plus a $5,000 sign-on bonus paid over 18 months, paid orientation, and company 401k with company match. Apply online at CordellTransportation.com. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
Are you ready to tackle this tax season alone? Well, you don't have to. Belmont Business Consultants and Tax Services, with its 30-plus years of experience, is here to help you with business and individual taxes, bookkeeping, and payroll, either in person, drop-off, or through their secure client portal. Belmont Business Consultants in Eaton and Dayton is standing by. Call them in Eaton at 937-472-3300 or in Dayton at 937-252-2217 or on the web at BelmontBCTXS.com. Upgrade to a new quality bath remodel in less time with minimal inconvenience and for less money with Bath Creations in as little as 2 days. We do it right. There are a lot of others boasting about bath remodels these days. Well, Bath Creations' expert craftsmanship and customer service speaks for itself. Plus, all first responders, veterans, and active military will save an additional $500 off your purchase. Visit our beautiful showroom at 8741 North Kimmel Road in Clayton or at mybathcreations.com and upgrade your new bath today.
All right, everybody, we welcome you back. It's the Justin Kinner Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. A lot of college basketball talk as of late with everything going on with the Red Hawks. Wright State punching their ticket to the NCAA tournament for the first time in 4 years. Dayton in action in the A-10 tournament. We have a lot to talk about, and I can't think of anyone better to bring on to talk college basketball than the one, the only, Mr. Clark Kellogg. Clark, welcome in, sir. How are you?
I'm terrific, Justin. Good to be with you, man. It's a great time of year. College hoops is on fire, and the madness is in full throat.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Look, so It's interesting. The last couple of years, we've had about 2 to 3 teams from the state of Ohio advance to the NCAA tournament. And right now, Wright State, they punched their ticket by winning the Horizon. Ohio State seems to be safe at this point. Oh, Miami, that's the team that, not just out of the state of Ohio, but all of the college basketball world is talking about. Dayton's still alive, at least as where we sit right now when we're recording this interview. Akron, the MAC 3, the Final Four teams in that tournament are all from the state of Ohio. Lot of potential.
Got 10 at one point and just couldn't close it out. But they're going to be a tough matchup for whoever they get squared off against.
How long into the season, Clark, before you started to really buy buy in to Miami. Obviously, they didn't really crack the top 25 until early January, maybe yourself, and that's when everyone kind of really started paying attention as far as that goes. But when did you really start to look at Miami and say, oh, like this isn't your typical mid-major program, that this team has what it takes?
Yeah, well, I'm a little different than some of my colleagues. I try to watch all of the mid-major teams early in the season, and when they're actually putting together good quality wins or winning consistently, as Miami was, I watched them early in the year and thought they were fun, entertaining, and problematic because they have so much offensive firepower. They're a well-connected group. Obviously, the radar for most folks probably started to get some traction as they made it, and as they continued to be the last unbeaten team. That was, I can't remember that weekend when Arizona lost and somebody else who was unbeaten. And Miami became the one and only unblemished team. And then you watch them play and win close games. They're fun to watch, and it'll be interesting to see what seed they get as a 31-1 team. Obviously, the metrics look good in some ways. The strength of schedule not so good. So it'll be interesting to see where they find themselves. Because if they could find themselves as an 11 or 12 seed, which I think is probably where they would land, they could perhaps have a matchup that would bode well for them to win a game or so.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. You know, they start out 31-0, and I'm not saying they're going to lose their first round NCAA tournament game, but, you know, I don't know if they'll be favored. But to go 31-0, they, might be in danger of losing their final two. And I don't want to get ahead of myself and say that they're going to lose the first round game, but that's kind of the nature of March. You know, you go play 4 months to get to the fun month, but the fun month could be done within a snap of a finger. At
least they're going to have another game to play because some of the number one seeds in the conference tournaments that have already taken place didn't advance out.
Clark,
Liberty Flames.
Yep.
There were a handful of number one seeds that had great years. the Belmont Bruins, and they likely won't. Well, I'm sure they won't be part of the field of 68 come Sunday.
Clark, just like in the college football playoffs with the NCAA tournament, there's a lot of criteria points, and I'm like in the middle with Miami. I'll never say that they don't deserve to be in the tournament, but I feel like we just ignore a lot of metrics that we consistently hold other teams to, and we're ignoring it for the sake of the story. And I'm getting so many names thrown at me because I'm trying to I'll never say they don't deserve to be in, but I also can't sit here and say that, oh yeah, we have to, the strength of schedule in the 300s. You can't ignore that, but you can't ignore 31-0. You can't, but you also can't ignore the fact that, and I don't want to use Auburn as an example too much, but they have the fourth toughest schedule in college basketball. Yeah, but look at all their losses. Well, there's a reason they have those losses. They're not playing a schedule that's in the 300s. How do you balance that? Because, you have to be realistic that you can't use all the criteria points to put teams in the tournament, but you have to use a good handful of them. Are there enough criteria points to sit there and say that they're for sure a lock to get in?
Well, I think you make a point around the subjectivity of individual committee members. Yeah. And there are 10 folks in that room. Not all the time will 10 vote, depending on who's being discussed. But clearly you have a certain perspective on what the analytics mean. I think the first criteria we all should use and default to is wins. That's the very first foundational component. And then with the additional metrics, I weigh road wins significantly as I evaluate teams that are on the stoop. All teams that are on the stoop have significant flaws, all of them. So what differentiates them? I like road wins, and I don't care what league you play in, road wins are hard to come by. And you've got multiple metrics that you can look at, and some of those metrics take into account strength of schedule. The new metric, the WAB, wins above bubble, give Miami a pretty favorable position in terms of comparing to other teams because they rank pretty high in that metric. And we found out last year that was part of what got North Carolina into the field, surprisingly, without a lot of quad one wins. They had played in a decent conference and the like. So I think all of the metrics are part of the stew. And then each individual committee member, as they're splitting hairs on these last teams. For me, 31-0, being competitive, and then losing the first game of your conference tournament, that speaks a lot to Miami. Warren, I don't know if we've ever had a team with 2 or fewer losses not make the field. And I don't know why you would start that precedent now with a team that clearly has handled its business the way Miami has.
We have Clark Kellogg with us here in Dayton. It's the Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. Clark, here at 1410 ESPN Radio, we carry, Ohio State basketball and Wright State basketball. So we love our college basketball here. Real quick on Wright State before we get to Ohio State. I knew you were very familiar with Scott Nagy. Clint Sargent, second-year head coach, was on his played for him, played in the NCAA tournament for Nagy. Coached alongside him as an assistant in the tournament, and now in his second year has led the Raiders to a Horizon League title and his first NCAA appearance as a head coach. Your thoughts from afar on Wright State, who, again, a lot of they have two true freshmen who are phenomenal, a lot of first and second year guys.
Yeah,
it's a pretty rare thing to have this young of a roster do what they did this year.
No question about it. Great job by Clint and his staff, and the players have come together nicely. They are a young team. I've already marked them down as a team to keep an eye on for 27. We know things can change in terms of your roster, but that group they have is pretty talented and only is going to get better. TJ Birch has been phenomenal. I thought Pickett's blocks late in that game were terrific, and he's had a really solid year. So they've got a nice nucleus. Obviously, Cooper leads is their leading scorer, and he's only a first-year guy. So they've got a nice nucleus and showed a lot of resilience in how they had to win the conference championship. I mean, Detroit Mercy had them up against the wall a little bit in that second half, and they found a way to get it done. TJ kind of took over, made some big plays, but I think the two blocks that Pickett had were major plays. So that's a good team, and I'm happy to see them excelling, and it looks like they've got a chance to be pretty good going forward as well.
You see a player like Kellen Pickett and Michael Cooper, Wright State getting two true freshmen like that come in to make immediate impacts. Is that the product? Are we starting to see that at the level that Wright State is and some of these other mid-majors? Is that a product of the high school level not being recruited as well from the bigger schools because the portal is such a point of emphasis? And I don't want to take anything away from Clint and his staff. They did a hell of a job recruiting those two and getting them here. But we are seeing a lot of very talented freshman players make impacts on some of these mid-major schools. Some guys that maybe have been under-recruited because of the portal having such an impact on roster building.
That's really a good point. I hadn't thought of it until you mentioned it. There are a lot of different components that impact how you construct your roster now because of NIL, because of the portal. So clearly as a matter of fact, this year, I've discovered more outstanding freshmen across the country, not just the big name ones, but the guys like you just mentioned. I mean, there are a number of these kind of players at mid-major schools that are going to be part of the tournament. Not only are they having good individual years, but their teams are winning. So to your point, I think that could be a byproduct of more teams, the power conference schools going after the portal players as opposed to kind of homing in on the talented first-year guys, and they're landing in some good spots on the mid-major level.
We're talking about the young players. Let's go over to Ohio State. So happy for Bruce Thornton. I know you are as well.
No question.
Not even a few weeks ago, we were talking about, man, this might be one of the best college basketball players to never step foot on an NCAA tournament floor. That's not going to be the case now. But how about Jake Diebler? How about Ohio State? How about, it felt like a few weeks ago, everyone was talking about next season and, the amount of money that will be invested more into the program. And it just felt like this season was put on the back burner. They flipped that switch. Everything seems to be clicking right now. And with that win yesterday, as you talked about over Iowa, seems to be that their spot in the tournament is safe at this point. Buckeyes dancing in March once again.
Yeah, excited to see that happen for a number of reasons. One, I think Jake has a chance to be an outstanding coach going forward. He's continued to grow from year 1 to 2, actually from taking over as interim, then getting the job and growing into it and staying with staying through the course of the season, focusing on what you need to focus on. And his team has responded. Bruce has been phenomenal, our all-time leading scorer now in program history, deservedly so. He's represented everything you want to see in a Buckeye student athlete in his everyday approach. And the team is finding a way to play its best basketball right now, which is what you want to do, right? They hit that 2-game skid, and then it was basically every game was a potential tournament game. It was win or maybe not see your name called, and they found a way to get it done. And I'm really impressed with them and feel like they're going to put up a good fight against Michigan later today too. But really thrilled for the program and for the young men that represent Ohio State currently, and for the coaching staff because they've put in great time and effort, as all staffs do. But I'm thrilled for Jake and the staff and the team, and hope that they've got a few more wins left in them.
Last thing on the way out, again, Clark Kellogg with us. Always appreciate his time, especially around this time with Selection Sunday coming up. Yesterday, a lot of it was floating around on social media that 6 years ago, yesterday was when the whole sports world shut down. It's when it was announced that the NCAA tournament was not going to happen in 2020. It's when the NBA and Major League Baseball, everything just shut down. And, here in Dayton, there's a lot of good teams that year that didn't have a chance to put their program on display in the tournament, but none more dramatic than Dayton, of course, not getting that opportunity. Anthony Grant, the Flyers, they need to win the A-10 to get to the NCAA tournament. But, man, it just has everyone talking Dayton Flyers lately with what could have been back in that 20 season.
Yeah, I know that was devastating on so many levels for all of us across the country. But clearly, when you had a program, maybe the best team in program history, perhaps. I mean, when you look at what they had accomplished and where they were potentially going to be seeded in that tournament, it's just unfortunate they didn't get a chance to show what they could have done there. And there were other teams in that same category, but Dayton's a great basketball city. That's why the first four has been there. And right now, it's the Flyers are up against it, but they have an opportunity, right? They've got an opportunity. The A-10, there's not been – St. Louis is dominated, but they're beatable, and Dayton has shown that clearly. So they've got an opportunity to put together a couple of more wins to see if they can advance. And I think they've got a better than 50% chance to do that.
All right, good stuff. Clark Kellogg, awesome enough to give us some time. As of now, out of the state of Ohio, Wright State, Ohio State, Miami seem to be all, good for March Madness. We'll keep an eye on Akron. Dayton's still alive, of course. We'll keep an eye on all these Ohio teams, and hopefully we get a handful of teams in. Clark, everyone, sees your face every year around this time a lot, of course. Obviously, where can people find you? What's going to be your main responsibilities heading in to the first?
I'll be hanging out in my normal seat in the studio in New York until we head to Indianapolis for the Final Four, but I'll be hanging out with Adam Zucker, Kenny Smith, Charles Barkley. Nate Burleson is stepping in to replace Ernie Johnson this year in the first 2 weekends of the tournament, and then Ernie will join that group at the Final Four. Bruce Pearl will be part of our team as well. So I'll be manning my usual seat right next to the anchor in Studio 43 in New York, and then Indianapolis when we get to Lucas Oil Stadium the first week of April.
I'm sorry. Every time I think of you and Chuck, the story about him showering in the jersey, but your reaction, that cackle laugh of yours had me cackling too. So I just always think of that one. But those are big personalities you got to make.
Justin, I laugh almost as hard now when I see that as I did when it happened. I still can't. I can't believe it because Charles is prone to those kind of things. But that was one of the all-timers for gut-busting laughter. Yeah, it was. That was way up there on my list of memorable moments sitting next to that dude.
Yeah, he'll be in Dayton on Tuesday or on Wednesday night calling the game.
That's right, him and Dick. Yeah, him and Dick will be hanging out calling the game, one of the first four games. That would be awesome.
All right, well, good stuff. Clark, you the man. Appreciate you as always. You're always one of my favorite guests every year. Thank you so much for giving us some time, and we'll see you soon.
Yep, enjoy the madness, Justin. Great to be with you, man.
All right, more of the Justin Kinner Show when we come back.